Last time on Skoolie Life, I rode my motorcycle up into the San Juan Mountains to explore some old mining ruins. The next morning I saddled up and rode across the Uncompaghre into a place called Paradox Valley to explore some ancient mining ruins from the 1890s that still exist today, hanging from the side of a cliff known as a hanging flume that they're actually trying to rebuild today. My intentions this day were to follow my previous route over into Paradox Valley. Lucky for me, I missed my turn and wound up on a cliff overlooking Dolores Canyon. It was at this point I realized there was more to see here, and I was very intrigued by looking down into the canyon, down the very sheer cliff faces, that there was more to see down below. It turns out that my navigational mistake allowed me to find not only an abandoned bridge down the road, but a shortcut and some fascinating mine ruins along the way. I turned around and went down this dirt road that followed the Dolores River until I discovered something really amazing hanging from the side of the cliff. It was at this point when the canyon really narrowed down and took a turn to the left. You could see up on the wall that there were man-made structures, and I assumed at the time that maybe they were power lines or something like that. I had no idea these were mining ruins at the time, and it turns out these are the remains of a structure that was built in the 1890s. In fact, it took 3 years to build and only lasted 3 years. It was a bit of a failure, but they used this structure to transport water from the river to a nearby placer mine. They didn't have access to water, so basically they built a hanging flume into the wall of the canyon, and it's up unbelievably high. I think that's about 60-80 feet right there. What you can still see are the remains from almost 130 years ago, and everybody is so impressed with the engineering that they're trying to rebuild it, and they still don't understand how it was built. With the technology of the day, it still baffles everybody, and that's part of the reason they're trying to reconstruct it. And you can see here a close-up of somebody that's actually examining the structure, but it's a testament to not only the dry climate here, but also the engineering and the construction techniques of 130 years ago almost. This was a determined group of men that built this over 3 years, and the placer mine only existed for about 3 years after construction. There's a lot of controversy as to whether they actually used the hydraulics from this flume, but there's lots of evidence that could only be the result of a placer mine, and that is evidence that it actually was in use for several years. I was determined to return to Paradox Valley, the same place I had visited in 2011, only for a few minutes, but the place that I stopped at this point and the cut in the rocks was so extraordinary that I had to return to see if it was just a fluke. It's so funny, when I pulled up here, there was not a breeze, and I was so disappointed because I came to Paradox Valley, and that's what this is back here. That little village down there is Paradox, Colorado. And in 2011, I came up here for the first time. I'd just ridden the San Juans, and I came through Paradox Valley. It's just beautiful. I don't know if you can see the colors as well as I can, but just big long valley. And I came up here and parked, took a break, and the wind was just freaking howling. It's like being in a wind tunnel. I think that's what I said. I'd never experienced that much constant wind anywhere. And it was just kind of shocking. And at that point, I wondered, what's paradox mean? What does that mean? What is the paradox? Is there something about this valley? Is there something about this ridge? And I never looked it up, but I always wanted to come back up here to see if it was a constant wind like I remembered. And I got back up here, and it's like it is now. It's just not even a breeze. It's not any more than a breeze that's down there in the valley. But anyway, I'm going to find out what the paradox is. It may just be this little town of Paradox that, you know, it's a cow town, but they have no cows. I don't know what the paradox is, but I'd always assumed it was some kind of a natural phenomenon, you know, the valley. But the more interesting thing from today is I took the wrong turn out of Naturita and went, I don't know, 20, 30 miles out of the way and found another canyon that looks just like the canyon that runs into Moab. And it was spectacular, but then I started realizing, hell, it's going to take me 200 miles out of the way if I keep going this way, and I'm not going to make it to Paradox, so I got to turn around and go 30 miles back to Naturita and take the turn that I missed. And on the way back, I realized there's a road down in this canyon. There's a bridge, a closed bridge, but I got to cross it. And my God, it was perfect. I'm so glad I missed my turn and then found that bridge and then took a shortcut through that canyon right there that shaved, I don't know, 60 miles off of my trip. But not just that, it took me down a dirt road down that beautiful canyon, shocking beautiful. Oh my God, enough video of that. But I am climbing over, I don't know, Paradox Pass, and this way is Utah. I'm not 10 miles from Utah, I'm sure, but I'm going to roll into Utah just to say I did and see what else I've missed over here the last time I blazed through here on the V-Strom. But I'm going to hike up there to that antenna and see what's going on up there. Maybe there's something unique up there. As I headed back to Montrose, I noticed more and more cattle in the middle of the road. And this is something that's unique to the West. You see cattle back east, but you don't see cattle in the road. Mostly, I assume, because not just because of laws and legal troubles having cattle in the middle of the road, but there's very little public land back east. East of the Rockies, there's, compared to the West, is just almost no public land. And you can see cattle here as I'm rolling through here. I really had to slow down a good bit just because there was so much cattle, and the calves would just pop out and run across the road any instance. And it was really extraordinary watching the sun go down on the aspens. but being worried the whole time about running into cattle. And before the sun went down, I was able to get back to the bus and enjoy yet another cold beer and a warm bus after a day of cold riding. Join me next time as I stumble down a cliff face above Telluride in a place called Black Bear Pass. See you then.